Blog Talk Radio. Blog Talk Radio.
Franchise interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi everyone, Happy New Year and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 9 years we've been asking the franchipreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host Marty McDermott, I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show today. Well, by tradition, our first show of the year typically focuses on self-awareness, self-improvement, and education. And today's show we're recommending 4 great books to read for 2016. And they include Lonnie Helgerson, the author of 5 Pennies, 10 Rules to Successfully Build a Franchise Mega Brand and Maximize System Profits. We're also going to hear a clip of our interview with Julie Bennett, franchise author and writer for Franchise Times, and she's going to talk about the Franchise Times Guide for selecting, buying, and owning a franchise. Then we'll be meeting with Warren Grecius, and Warren's going to talk about the best damn management book ever. And then we're going to wrap things up with the franchise king, Joel Labava, and Joel is going to be talking about his book, Become a Franchise Owner. And that's coming right up on Franchise Interviews. So stick around because we got a great show.
Franchise Teacher.
Would you like to know how to franchise your concept or grow your franchise business?
Meet the experts at Franchise Teacher.
The goal of Franchise Teacher is to teach, coach, consult, and advise. The team of experts at Franchise Teacher will evaluate your business model and present you with a winning business strategy.
Franchise Teacher will help you decide whether or not your concept works and if it's franchisable. Franchise Teacher is proud to have over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors.
Franchise Teacher are developers of over a dozen franchise systems, which include brick and mortar as well as home-based concepts of nearly 3,000 combined franchise locations.
Whether you need to add more units or get more customers, Franchise Teacher can help. We will teach.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn our proven system.
Coach.
Franchise Teacher will help you provide a game plan to succeed.
Consult.
Franchise Teacher will make sure you stay on track.
And advise.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn from our over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors. Take advantage of our free, no-obligation phone consultation. Simply go to franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
That's franchiseteacher.com. Or call us at 561-385-3032.
Are you looking for a franchise that delivers? Businesses will always need shipping, and for more than 25 years, loyal customers have depended on Unishippers for reliable savings and exceptional customer service. Unishippers is focused on just one thing: helping small and medium-sized businesses save time and money on all their shipping needs. And as the largest reseller of complete shipping services in the country, we have the buying power to ensure that we succeed. The Unishippers franchise offers low startup costs, no equipment or real estate required because they're not retail, residual income, and a quality of life and work-life balance. For more information on becoming a Unishippers franchisee, go to www.unishippers.com and click Franchise Opportunities or call Franchise Development at 801-708-5822. That's 801-708-5822.
Hi, this is Connie McDermott, Administrative Assistant for Franchise Interviews, LLC, and you're listening to Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone. Happy New Year, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 9 years, we've been asking the Frantrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and as we were saying earlier, we have a great show today. So by tradition, our first show of the year typically focuses on topics like self-awareness, self-improvement, and education. And today's show, we're recommending 4 great books to read for 2016. And our first one we're going to talk about is from Lonnie Helgerson, the author of 5 Pennies. I'm going to go right into our interview with Lonnie. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 5 years we've been asking the Frantrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott, and I'm the president of Franchise Interviews. And as we were saying earlier, we have a great show today. We're meeting with franchise author, franchise speaker, and serial Frantrepreneur, Lonnie Helgerson. And Lonnie has over 27 years experience in the franchise industry, working with companies such as Super 8 Motels, Identikit, and many more. Hey, Lonnie, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Marty. I'm having an awesome day.
Oh, that's fantastic, Lonnie. It's great to finally have you on the show. I've been following your career for quite a long time now. So Don was a little jealous he couldn't be here today. I was telling him a story before the show, Lonnie. I promised my wife over the Memorial Day weekend that I wasn't going to do any work or read any journal articles for my doctorate degree. And I got your book, 5 Pennies. I think I got it on Friday, and I got to tell you, I couldn't put it down. It was a fantastic book. I think you really did a great job at filling a gap in a literature review. There's nothing out there that's like it. I was telling Don about the title. I said 5 pennies. He goes, "What's 5 pennies?" So you probably get that. It's a great story. I thought you could probably tell it a little better than I could.
Yeah, I do get that question quite often, and where the title came from. And as you know already, having read it, there's an interesting story behind that. I serve on the board of advisors at the Institute of Franchise Executives at Nova Southeastern University with Carolyn Bolton, and she's director of special projects for Subway restaurants. And Carolyn and I go back quite a ways, and we know each other very well, and our kids are very close in age, so we always drift off into a conversation about our children. A few years back already, her and I were talking about our kids, and I was telling her how I was trying to teach Chandler, my son, a number of years before this conversation, actually. He was probably about 5 or 6 at the time, and he's now 11, so this has been a while back. And he always hits me up for money, right? He wants some money for this or that, right?
Right.
And I said, okay, here's the deal, son. I said, you clean my office, and I'll pay you to do that. And he said, okay. So he came in, he lugged in a vacuum cleaner, and he vacuumed a little bit and got more garbage on the floor. Then he took out and this, that, and the other thing. And he came over and he said, okay, he wanted $2. I said, well, where's your invoice?
Right.
And it's like, he gives me that blank stare like, invoice, and he could hardly, say the word at the time. And I said, here's how you make money. I said, this is, I'm going to teach you a business lesson today. So I taught him how to create an invoice and wrote down $2. And I said, now you give me the invoice. And I gave him his $2, and I marked paid in full. I said, you keep that, and that's how you make money as a business. And she chuckled, and she said, her son was going through the same kind of gyrations. And at the time, she was working for Franchise Brands, which is a side business that's owned by the founders of Subway that looks for concepts to purchase. And at any rate, he was always hitting her up to buy this chain or that chain. He'd stop and have a bagel, and he'd say, you know, Mom, you guys need to buy this franchise chain because it's such good food. And she's getting to a point where she finally decided to tell him how they evaluate a franchise when they purchase it, and it's a good story. And I think, she says, for every dollar that comes into that bagel shop, that would be 100 pennies, right? Yes.
Right.
Okay, so many pennies go to pay for your labor and your staff. So many pennies go to rent. So many pennies go to insurance, and she went through all of them. So many pennies go to buy food for resale. So at the bottom, there's got to be a good, strong amount of pennies for the owner to keep at the end of the day. That's called net profit.
Right.
And on top of that, there needs to be 5 pennies that typically, it's the royalty that goes for the franchisor. And she says we zero in on that profitability, those pennies that go to the franchisee for profitability when we're going to purchase a chain. And I said, it's interesting thought, Carolyn, because I don't think enough chains are focusing on those 5 pennies or those profits these days. And this is pre-recession, right? So we're on high-flying times, and everybody's growing to beat the band. And whenever you run into people through IFA, International Franchise Association conferences, et cetera, it's always, how are you doing? Oh, we opened up X amount of stores, or we sold this many locations, and it's still that way. And it's not very often I hear somebody say, well, our same-store sales grew by 10%. And there's a big difference there. So that's where the term 5 pennies came from, because it's average royalty franchisors.
It's interesting. One of the stories that really hit home, Lonnie, was you were standing, I guess you were at the International Franchise Association. I think you were at the one in Las Vegas. And you hear a lot of great conversations, don't you, as you're standing in line? But I think you were listening to you're listening to a couple other franchisors, and they were talking about, I guess if they sold, I don't know, I guess it was like it might have been like $20,000 franchise fee, and if they sold 10 of them, I guess they would have got $200,000. And it seemed like that was the focus for that particular franchise, wasn't it? It wasn't about profitability or anything like that. And you wonder, if those guys are actually still in business today. You can kind of hypothesize that whoever they were, they're probably not, are they?
No, I don't know if they are or not, but it was crazy because they sounded like 2 cat burglars. It was crazy, and it was really kind of irritating and annoying because I'm listening to this, and they're talking about this, and if you've been around in franchise in a while, you may have heard those kinds of conversations from time to time, and I wanted to turn around and say, guys, I said, is there anything more to this business than franchise fees? And by the way, what are your costs of supporting a franchisee, and so on and so on and so on. And I got helped, and they were gone. I never did see them again. But you're absolutely right. I wonder if they still are, if they learned from that convention the importance of what they're doing. And,
I don't think those guys knew who they – well, it's funny because as I was reading a lot, I said, I don't think those guys knew who they were standing next to. That you had all this experience in franchising, There was the great quote. I thought it was fantastic how you put it right on the cover of the book from Fred DeLuca, who is someone, I truly admire. Franchise profitability is the most important mission of the franchisor, and I think that's really hits home, doesn't it? It's so powerful. We have great quotes in franchising, and I think we're going to somehow incorporate that in there to our great quotes because I think it's very powerful. How about a general overview of the book? Why was it written, Lonnie? Was it because there was a gap? There's so many books out there on franchising. I was kind of wondering what was going to come out next, and I think it was one of the reasons I couldn't put it down was because I think you really did a great job at filling that gap that wasn't what was said, in all the other books.
Well, I've been having a lot of people tell me I should write a book for a long time over the years, and I got thinking about it, and I really never felt that who wants to read about my escapades and so forth, and I had consulted and worked with a number of companies in recent years and prior, right up to the recession and during the recession, and there's some interesting dynamics that change in franchising. Most companies really had to, if they didn't, they should have, focused on their unit economics because at the end of the day, that's what got them through the recession. and it forced many of them to really look at their support, their balance sheets, and how they make money. And I had seen a number of companies that had done things that I felt weren't probably on the up and up. They had done them wrong, and they really were taking advantage of franchising in a way. And I felt compelled to write a book that, as you mentioned, there's a lot of books on starting a franchise, but nobody's ever said, here's how you grow one, here's how you manage it, and these are the tools and all the things that you need to do this. And I just sat down, and the first story I put down was Carolyn's story, and I just went from there. And I had these 10 rules that are 10 solid areas that of any brand that kind of formulate the basis for a franchise system. And you can see more about that in what I call a model of success, franchise mega brand, where in 5 pennies mega means great. Rather than just big. And, you build from franchisee profitability, and you layer all of these different types of supports and different rules and things on top of it that add all of this value add and best practices and all of these things to a franchisee, which should increase their operational efficiencies, profitability, and sales, et cetera, which come back in the form of royalties, which feed the entire ecosystem. And
if you'd like to hear that whole interview with Lonnie, simply go to franchiseinterviews.com and go to our franchise category page and click our franchise expert author page, and that'll take you right into the whole interview with Lonnie Helgeson. It's a really fantastic book. You can also get the book on Amazon.com. So we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to speak with Julie Bennett, franchise author and writer for Franchise Times, and she's going to talk about the Franchise Times Guide, selecting, buying, and owning a franchise.
Are you looking for a franchise that delivers? Businesses will always need shipping, and for more than 25 years, loyal customers have depended on Unishippers for reliable savings and exceptional customer service. Unishippers is focused on just one thing: helping small and medium-sized businesses save time and money on all their shipping needs. And as the largest reseller of complete shipping services in the country, we have the buying power to ensure that we succeed. The Unishippers franchise offers low startup costs, no equipment or real estate required because they're not retail, residual income, and a quality of life and work-life balance. For more information on becoming a Unishippers franchisee, go to www.unishippers.com and click Franchise Opportunities, or call Franchise Development at 801-708-5822. That's 801-708-5822.
Hi, this is Connie McDermott, Administrative Assistant for Franchise Interviews, LLC, and you're listening to Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Also franchising.
Right. I don't want to steal Julie's thunder. As you were mentioning, Don, we have a great show today. We're meeting with franchise author Julie Bennett, and Julie just wrote the Franchise Times Guide to Selecting, Buying, and Owning a Franchise. And Julie is a regular contributor to our favorite magazine, Franchise Times, which you and I think is the best franchise magazine out there.
Yes.
And writes the Franchise Insight column for StartupJournal.com, which I've been on many times, which is the Wall Street Journal site for entrepreneurs. And Julie's articles appeared in Wall Street Journal, Chicago Tribune, and Hispanic Business Journal. So, hi, Julie. Good morning, and welcome to the show.
Good morning to both of you.
How you doing today, Julie?
Okay, except I'm no longer doing Franchise Insight for
You're
the
not.
online Wall Street Journal. They have gone through so many changes at that publication.
They have, okay.
Yes, and things are up in the air right now.
Gotcha.
I write a lot for the print journal, however.
Yes, oh, absolutely. You're all over the place. It's Julie, joining me is my co-host, Don Johnson, and I know, Don, that you say hi to Julie.
Yeah, Julie, it's appreciate you coming on the show, and been really excited for a few weeks now to talk to you about this book. It seems like you put big time hours into putting this together, huh?
Yeah,
Oh, I really did. Almost like a franchisee.
Fantastic. Well, it's a great book, Julie. I mean, as Don and I were saying, I believe this is going to be, one of the must-reads in franchising. Like one of the authors we had on the show, I think you might know, Michael Gerber, author of The E-Myth. I mean, that's usually required reading for franchisees, and I think that this book is going to be the same thing as well. It's going to be required reading for anyone looking to buy a franchise. You did a fantastic job with it.
Why, thank you.
Julie, we like to start off by asking our guests where you're calling from today.
I'm calling from my home office in Northbrook, Illinois.
Oh, great.
It's 4 degrees outside.
Oh, geez. Pretty cold out there.
Yes.
Oh, that's something. We'll stay indoors today.
I certainly will.
Get your fireplace going.
I'm going to brew my own Dunkin' Donuts coffee.
There you go. I heard that part. We'll have to talk about that. Julie, can we talk a little bit about your background as a writer, and how you, I'm always interested in finding out how people got involved in franchising.
I got involved in franchising by default. I'm a freelance writer. I was working for the Chicago Tribune, the Wall Street Journal, and a publication called Crane's Chicago Business.
Okay.
They decided to start a franchise magazine, which they eventually sold to John Hamburger in Minneapolis, and it is Franchise Times. So they asked me to join that staff, and that's how I got involved.
Fantastic.
Interesting. Why did you write the book, Julie, Franchise Times Guide to Selecting, Buying, and Owning a Franchise? What was the purpose behind that?
Through the years, I've interviewed hundreds of franchisees, and most of them are happy and prosperous and glad they got into it. But I've also interviewed people who said, buying this franchise was the worst mistake of my life.
Wow, that's interesting.
And I wrote the book for that second group to help them evaluate whether they should have been a franchisee in the first place and to help them make a reasoned decision about a franchise purchase.
That's interesting. So you got a lot of great stories. Don and I have been doing the radio show, Julie, for so it's a little over a year now. I mean, and I just think of all the stories that we've had, since doing the show. I can't imagine all the stories that you have, because you've been, in this industry for such a long time now. I imagine I could, and you could talk our ears off, as far as the worst stories you have. And the book really shows that, I mean, a lot of times you can't put it down, as Don and I were just talking about the Allegra story,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's fascinating. Very
and I called all those franchisees their reports from the trenches at random.
Really?
Yes,
That's
well, almost at random. I called franchise companies and said, I want to talk to somebody articulate, but then you don't want them to give you their best franchisee. Absolutely. So I'd say a state, somebody articulate and say Texas.
Right.
And then they'd have to come up with someone to talk to.
Great.
Do you think, Julie, a lot of times people on the other side didn't have the great experience investing in a franchise? You think a big reason for that was their lack of due diligence initially and, rushing to make a decision going into that franchise? I know there's several reasons, but that probably is a big one, right?
Absolutely. In fact, often I'll say, well, how many franchisees did you call from the system before you opened? Oh, 1 or 2. Or I walked into one and it seemed to be going well. In my book, I suggest that you call 60 franchisees from the system.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
That's something Marty and I really stress a lot, on the show as we're talking to people and, to really, do their due diligence, speak to franchisees, remind them about the UFOC and that all the franchisees are listed in that book and, just make sure everything's 100% go and that you don't rush into things. I mean, it's so important. I mean, this is, Marty, you brought it up. It becomes like a marriage to the franchise. It's something you're going to be doing for a while. Just make sure you're making the right decision.
Absolutely.
What changes have you seen in franchising over the last 15 years, Julie?
Well, when I started going to franchise conventions, it was really a good old boy network. Most of the franchises were started by white men, and when they selected franchisees, my friend Everett Wallace says they fished from the same pond.
Right.
Today, a lot of franchises are owned by corporations and private equity groups, and we're beginning to see female and minority franchisees. When I interviewed the first African-American couple who joined Alpha Graphics maybe 10, 12 years ago, the woman said, when we go to a convention, everybody knows who we are. Nowadays, I don't think that's true. When you go to a convention, you do see a diversity of faces.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely, Julie. I help people nationwide franchise financing, and I see all different ages of people, and women, minorities, veterans, across the board. It's that's really you're right. I agree with you on that. There's been a big change there.
Right. Yeah, certainly more women today too, Julie. I guess Don and I have noticed since we've been doing this, which is a great thing. It's to see that. And just also the shows are fantastic, Julie. I'm always amazed at the number of new concepts that come about every year. I think it gets overwhelming. I think you might have referenced that in the book. For someone looking to buy a franchise, there's this, was it 2,500, 3,000 concepts to choose from. Where do you begin? It's mind-boggling.
And there are always some odd ones.
Yes. There are, which I'm sure you've come across, in your experience.
Yeah, we were just at Franchise Expo South, and the most unusual one was Eliza J., and it is providing upscale porta potties to women and other events.
Interesting.
They're basically advertising everything, these days. And hey, if it's profitable and if it's a system, it makes it easier for someone to invest in the business. It's been proven. Why not? Basically.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
what else? Besides, you mentioned the different types of people, diversity, large corporations. What other changes, have you seen in your experience?
I think franchising is getting a lot more professional. It used to be that franchisees were mom and pop operators. They owned one, maybe two fast food restaurants or lube shops. Now, franchisees can own hundreds of units.
Right.
And they're running it like a business. One franchisee I interviewed here, Chuck James, owned, I think, 34 Burger Kings, and he says it's like running 34 different $1 to $2 million businesses.
Wow, that's incredible.
He has an MBA from Wharton.
Right.
And a lot of people with good business skills are getting involved now.
Interesting.
Right. Also, a lot of people who own another type of business, keeping that and then investing in a franchise. And a lot of people going into franchising or going into it knowing they want to start up. They're signing 3-store deals or multiple deals as opposed to just opening up one and then seeing what happens. That's probably another big change.
That's a big change that I don't like at all. I feel there are too many people who go into franchising, then at the last minute, I write a lot about Discovery Day and how that's an emotional high. And during Discovery Day, and they're so sure they're going to be a success. Instead of just buying one franchise, they buy 3 or sign on to develop an entire state.
Right.
I believe
If you'd like to hear that whole interview with Julie, all you have to do is go to franchiseinterviews.com and go to our franchise by category page and click on our franchise expert, franchise author section. You can hear that whole interview with Julie. So what we'll do is we'll take a quick break, and we're going to be right back with Warren Gresham, the author of the best damn management book ever.
Franchise Teacher.
Would you like to know how to franchise your concept or grow your franchise business?
Meet the experts at Franchise Teacher.
The goal of Franchise Teacher is to teach, coach, consult, and advise. The team of experts at Franchise Teacher will evaluate your business model and present you with a winning business strategy.
Franchise Teacher will help you decide whether or not your concept works and if it's franchisable. Franchise Teacher is proud to have over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors.
Franchise Teacher are developers of over a dozen franchise systems, which include brick and mortar as well as home-based concepts of nearly 3,000 combined franchise locations.
Whether you need to add more units or get more customers, Franchise Teacher can help. We will teach.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn our proven system.
Coach.
Franchise Teacher will help you provide a game plan to succeed.
Consult.
Franchise Teacher will make sure you stay on track.
And advise.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn from our over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors. Take advantage of our free, no-obligation phone consultation. Simply go to franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
That's franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
Franchise interviews from Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia. You're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Oh, good. It's great to hear your voice,
Good.
Warren.
Doing great, Warren.
It's great to be back.
Happy holidays.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah, happy holidays to you, Warren. I think it's been a while. How long has it been since we've had Warren on the show, Don? It's maybe a year or two?
I think at least 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
At least 2 years, yeah. And I know you've been very busy. I've been following you, as you know, Warren, so has Don,
Thank you.
With all your, podcasts and everything like that. So, again, it is fantastic to have you back on the show. I don't know if you know this, Warren. It was a year ago I was asked to list my top 5 favorite books for Kaplan University for our students, and one of them is the best damn sales book ever, 16 Rock Solid Rules for Achieving Sales Success. So I expect probably your new one's going to be up there as well. I'm almost done with it, just so you know. It's a fantastic book.
Thank you.
It's really a wonderful read.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It's our pleasure. I thought a good place to start off, Warren, is why did you write the book, the best damn management book ever?
Well, well, you know me, I never beat around the bush because my publisher bugged the living heck out of me. That's why.
It's a very prestigious publisher too. I mean, wasn't it
Wiley's
Publishing?
a great publisher.
They're fantastic.
They have been great to work with, and the thing was, the first book sold well. So and continues to sell well, I'm proud to say. And so they were bugging me for years to write another book. And I never, there was never anything, I just didn't feel like writing a book for the sake of writing a book.
Right,
with you know me, I mean, I get wound up.
Yeah.
For me to write a book, it's got to be something I really feel strongly about, passionate about. And so finally one day, it dawned on me, and I do a lot of speaking to management groups too, aside from sales groups. And one of the things all of a sudden I started talking about was how the similarities between being a great parent and being a great manager/leader. And I said, this could make the basis for a good book. So I called the publisher. I said, okay, I'm ready. You can stop bugging me. I'm ready. I pitched the idea. He said, send me the proposal. I sent the proposal. Boom. The next thing I know, I got a book contract, and I'm writing this book.
What became interesting as you were putting the book together? I'm sure all kinds of new thoughts and things hit you. What was a surprise when you were putting this together?
Well, you know me. When you read my books, it's like you're listening to me speak. As my wife says, my God, you write just like you speak. It's like I'm
absolutely.
To you. And I'm a storyteller, and it's just my observations, and I just, as I kept delving more and more into it, I kept seeing this similarity, with my kids. I got 2 kids, Michael and Emily. Michael's 24, Emily is 20, and I just kept saying, my God, the similarities. I never noticed it before, and how much similarity there is to running a business and managing people and leading people as there is to being a parent. Except, to be honest about it, you hear a lot more whining as a manager than you do as a parent.
That's true, and I think you said that in the book, Warren. Which again, I like the book because it was funny. I was at the doctor's office yesterday, Don. I didn't tell you this, and I was like laughing because it's as you say. I can picture you actually saying these things. You were talking about and I showed my wife this yesterday. You're talking about your son Michael saying that he'll do something because nobody else is doing it. I showed it to my wife, and she started laughing hysterically. She said, "Oh my God," because that's our son. He's 4 years old now, and that's our son. And it segues into like all that motivation and everything like that, doesn't it?
That's why I wrote the book. I noticed when I was making these comparisons in my speeches how people reacted the same way you did, because everyone can relate to that. So many people in my audience, there's so many people that are going to read this book have kids, and they can relate to that. And to be able to make that connection to understanding how being a good parent can help you be a better manager, leader, business owner, I think it's very valuable.
What's really the secret, Warren, to good management is that individual person, their personality, and just relating that to someone, and you're getting to know that person who's under you, their personality. Because there's all kinds of ways to manage. Look at Bill Parcells, and some of the most successful coaches took the hard line type approach. They really build people up and knock them down, and vice versa. Then you have the nice guy approach. What have you found to be kind of the key to management?
Well, the key to management is, and Bill Parcells, yes and no, took the hard line approach. Great coaches like Parcells, like Red Auerbach, they understood each player individually. And I think one of the points I make in the book is you have to treat your people like they're your customers, because they are your customers. And you have to understand that, just like each one of your kids are different. If you have more than one kid, you'll notice your kids are all different.
Right.
I mean, my son and my daughter are total opposite. People react different. Different people react differently to different things. Red Auerbach always used to, he used to pick on Tommy Heinsohn. He was brutal, they said, in his treatment of Tommy Heinsohn. He would scream at him, yell, blame him for everything. Why? Because he knew he could take it.
Or someone like Bobby Knight, who's one of the most successful college coaches ever, and everybody thinks of him as just being a mean guy, but all of his players end up loving him and coming back and watching him and supporting him, and so you don't see a lot of the behind the scenes, the full story. I've read a couple books.
Great coaches know who they can kick in the rear, and great coaches know who they should pat on the back.
Right.
Because it's amazing, Warren.
People are different. They react differently to different motivations. Everybody's motivated by something different. You, as a manager, have to find out what motivates each and every one of your people. You've got to treat them like clients. You sit down with your clients and try to figure out what their individual needs are. Why don't you do the same thing with the people that work for you?
Good point.
It's so true, and a lot of businesses do not do that. Is one of the things I got from the book too. It was a big reminder that I would like to even share with my students. I think this book, Warren, is really for, I don't know if you knew this, but more people than you even imagine. I was going to say it could be parents, or I was thinking of it from a university professor perspective. That the book is just really for so many people out there, students. I'm going to recommend to my students that they read this book. It really is fantastic. I mean, there's just so many things, you talk about that really just were kind of like a reinforcement. But it is interesting, when you talk about sports and, you talk about Bill Parcells, and I know, Don, you're a Giants fan, aren't you?
Right.
You have that in common with That's true. But it's interesting seeing the relationship between sports and management. I know in a lot of the business books that I read, Warren, Vince Lombardi is referenced quite often as well. My dad, used to talk about Vince Lombardi a lot as well, but, Parcells is really amazing.
Well, my two favorites of all time two of my favorites have always been Parcells and Red Auerbach.
Right.
Interesting, yeah.
And they understood. Parcells always said, I don't motivate people. I'm a great motivator because I only keep players who are self-motivated. If you're not self-motivated, I get rid of you. Because you cannot motivate other people. I mean, you know me. I could go crazy. I could do a fire and brimstone. I could have people swinging from the chandeliers, but 24 hours later they're going to wake up and say, who was that guy?
Well, you do that, right? You do that to us. Doesn't Warren do that to us, Don? I mean, again, you're so motivated. Don says he couldn't wait to get on the phone after the show's over today, Warren, to just get on the phone because you do have that ability to just inspire, But you're right. It has to be, and maybe it's a good time to talk about it, external versus internal motivation.
Absolutely.
If you want to address that.
Sure. I mean, external motivation is great, but it's a short-term fix. A football coach only has to get people wound up for a few hours on Sunday, and that's including the commercials and halftime.
Right.
But a good business owner, a good leader, you have to, you can't motivate other people. You can get them excited, you can get them inspired, but if they're not so, external motivation is a short-term force. Internal motivation can last forever. See, the key is not to motivate others. The key is to give them the tools and the techniques that will allow them to be better able to motivate themselves.
Good point. I'm thinking, my twins, Warren, are 7. They each play soccer, basketball, baseball. They're in scouts. So my son's had a tough time, and I grew up playing sports and was pretty decent at it. And I'm starting to realize that if he has to sort of have that inner motivation on his own.
Right.
Because I noticed in soccer he's not being very aggressive, and I don't know at this point whether he's going to have that attitude where he hates to lose and he's going to be over-aggressive. And that's maybe something you can try your best to educate, let him know how to be a good player. But if he doesn't have that inner drive and motivation, it's something you kind of have to have on your own a little bit, right?
Well, that's it. You see, my son was a very good baseball player. Very good baseball player. Far better player than I ever was. Yeah. But he got to the point where he just wasn't willing to do what it takes to get to the next level.
Right.
And so what was I going to do? I was going to push him? He said, Dad, I want to quit the team. I said, okay, I'm not going to go. What am I going to do? Because I love baseball, I'm going to make him stay. He didn't want to do it.
Right.
And if you're not willing to do what it takes, then, move on. Find something else you like.
Right.
And so, it's, with your people, business owners, and, I know we're speaking to business owners on your show here, all those franchisors, franchisees. We're speaking to business owners. Business owners are always saying, oh, man, if I could only find the right hot button to push on this guy.
Right.
The problem is you're trying to find a button on people who might not have any buttons. The biggest reason people are not self-motivated is they themselves don't know what motivates them. They have no goals. They have no plans. You, as the leader, you as the business owner, you as the manager, you have to sit down with each and every one of your people individually, just like you would do a needs analysis on a client. You sit down with the people that work for you and try to help them figure out what it is they want to achieve out of their life, their career, or whatnot, and help them put together a set of goals and a plan that will get them there. Then, once you do that, once they have something to shoot for on their own, something that's theirs, something they really want to achieve, then you can show them how they can use the job as a vehicle to getting them there. If I know that every day I come to work I'm getting that much closer to what I want, now I'm a lot more motivated to come to work every day and do a good job, even if I don't like the job that much.
That's so true.
Yeah,
I was going to say, Warren, I don't know if you noticed, I used to work for a Madison Avenue firm, and they used to have sales contests all the time, and it was funny because you mentioned, and it was one of the things I was reading your book, I laughed again. You said, have you ever wondered why so many sales contests don't work? And a lot of times the contests were for tickets for an off-Broadway show or Mets tickets, and I wasn't a Mets fan, I was a Yankees fan.
Who is?
And it was just so true, right? But it's so true, though, and you wonder why that still goes on today, that there's so many companies out there,
because
they have
there
these
are
sales
so many bad managers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Give me a great sales force and stick them with a lousy manager. 6 months you'll have a lousy sales force.
Warren, it's almost like you had to write this type of book, Warren. You had to write this book to kind of complete the cycle of sales in general. Before you think about it, you only had half the story. Okay, this is.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Part 2. Yeah. And you also said, too, I wrote this down, was higher attitude, not skills, and used a great example of it. I think you referenced Sylvia as the example, and I was reading about this. I said, oh, my God, I got to share this with my students. I mean, it got me very excited. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Can I please elaborate on that a little?
Yes,
sure, this story about Sylvia has even a better ending since the book came out.
It does.
Yes, Sylvia works for McKinsey, one of the largest, if not the largest consulting firm in the world. She started out as an office manager, glorified title to someone who, filled the pencil boxes and ordered the supplies and whatnot. But she worked like a dog. I mean, nothing. No task was too menial. No job was too tough. Whatever they asked her to do, Sylvia did and did it well. And then she finally got her big promotion. And you know why? Because she was the only one willing to empty the dishwasher in the office. People, they hired her, but her attitude helped her advance. Now, here's the good news. Here's the better news, I should say. Last week, Sylvia just got another promotion.
That's incredible.
She got another promotion. And they asked her what her goals are, and she said, I want to be able to work for, they have offices all over the world, McKinsey.
Right.
She said, I want to.
If you'd like to hear that whole interview with Warren Gresham, simply go to franchiseinterviews.com and go to our franchises by category page and click on our franchise expert, franchise author page, and you'll be able to listen to that whole interview. And you can also get the book, by the way, on Amazon.com. So we have one more interview coming up with Joel LaBava, and Joel is the franchise king, and we'll be right back with Joel in just a moment.
Are you one of those special people who are willing to go after your dreams and goals? Are you ready to fulfill that dream of owning your own business with the security of a proven brand? The opportunity to take control of your future and own a Rita's Italian Ice franchise is within your reach.
Rita's is seeking success-oriented individuals who are ready to make a change in their life, and Rita's offers unparalleled training and support to assure your success. And did you know the frozen treat industry is a recession-proof industry, and there are Rita's in 23 states currently with 540 stores open. Rita's Italian Ice has been around for 25 years and is listed as a top-performing franchise by the Wall Street Journal.
Now here's the really good part. Rita's Italian Ice is a unique and amazing taste treat. It's smoother than a snow cone, and it combines ice with real fresh fruit. The real fruit adds dramatically to the taste, and it comes in over 40 flavors. The ice and fruit are mixed on site and made fresh daily, and it is delicious.
You'll want to know more about this exciting and successful franchise opportunity. Go to www.ownaritas.com and get all your questions answered. That's www.ownaritas.com to take control of your dreams and future today. You don't want to wait any longer to be a part of this adventure. www.ownaritas.com.
Hi, this is Connie McDermott, Administrative Assistant for Franchise Interviews, LLC, and you're listening to Franchise Interviews.
Franchisers, are you looking to reach aspiring entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise? Are you looking to reach a highly educated audience on franchising? For over 8 years, Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Our weekly franchise radio show where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys, and our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919. That's 610-905-2919.
Meeting with the franchise king, Joel LaBava. And Joel is an author and a brutally honest entrepreneur, hyper-focused on making sure that prospective franchise owners don't lose their money. And today we're talking to Joel about his recent book, Become a Franchise Owner. Hey, Joel, how you doing? Welcome back.
Hey, guys, how you doing?
Great, Joel. It's great to have you back on the show. And I think you remember my co-host, Don Johnson. Right, Don?
Yeah, hey, Joel. Happy holidays. Marty and I are thinking of calling ourselves the Franchise Radio Kings. Would that be infringing on your name?
Yes, it would.
Okay, forget it then. We won't use it.
Well, Joel, I was saying to you yesterday, you're the only person we've asked to come back on our show 3 times, so we're fans.
Man.
The only reason we don't like having you on the show is because you have a better radio voice than we do. So that's the problem. And I know you have a background in radio, don't you?
Yeah, I sure do, from way back when.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you have a great past. I want to congratulate you on the new book, Become a Franchise Owner. I'm a university professor, Joel, and in our world, I mean, Wiley Publishing, that's a pretty big deal, isn't it?
Yeah, it was pretty cool when they called me, and actually got an email from one of the editors who, interestingly enough, read a review that I did of a book, and she called me and she said, it's overdue, man. I like your platform. I like what you have to say, and let's do a deal.
I agree.
What was it, Joel, that you think stuck in their mind, or maybe it was something specific that you put in there? I mean, there's a lot of books on franchising. What do you think why they wanted you to write it?
I think they felt that I was really, really, or I am really, really straightforward, and that I'm not shy, and that people are hurting now, and I want them to be careful, and I think the folks at Wiley are also, in favor of that, of, helping readers do the right thing.
Right.
Yeah, this book is definitely different, Joel, than anything that's out there. I think Don and I have probably, we've probably read all the franchise books, and I haven't gotten through the whole book yet, but it really is fantastic. I mean, I like how you use examples and things like that, from different people. And did you learn anything when you were writing the book? I know for me, I do a lot of writing as well, and I always seem to learn something when I'm writing. Did you learn anything in writing this book?
I learned something about writing, actually. I mean, I've been writing online for 6 years now.
I know you have, because I've been following, Yeah,
thank you, a lot of places. And what I learned was that 2 and 3 sentence things kind of turn into massive amounts of paragraphs. They just grow and grow. And it was really weird, because when I talked to the editors, I said, "You want how many words?" I said, "There's no way I'll be able to do that." And she told me, she said, "You know what? You'll see." So it ended up being more words than I actually contracted for. So that was kind of cool. It just kind of starts exploding once you get going.
That's fantastic. And I know you've been doing a lot of promotion for the book as well. You were recently, you were in New York, weren't you, Joel?
Yeah, I was in New York City at the Small Business Expo there, and I did a seminar, and it was pretty cool. About 10,000 people came through the doors.
That's fantastic. I know Don and I wanted to meet you there, but we couldn't get over there. But it would have been fantastic to finally get to meet you face to face. Everyone calls you the franchise king, and I know a lot of our listeners are saying, "Well, how did he become the franchise king?" Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. For those people that know me, they know that it's not about ego. The real story is actually pretty darn exciting. Not at all, actually. I went into an exhibit hall at one of the local chambers of commerce for an expo several years ago, and the director of the chamber, who knows me, from across the room yells out at full volume, "Hey, it's the franchise king!" What? Who, me? And it stuck. And then a local Cleveland friend of mine, Jim Kukral, who's a great internet marketer, hammered on me to get that thing trademarked, which I did. So that's how it came about. How exciting.
That's great.
And I always enjoy just, people being honest. It'd be very easy to write a franchise book and everything is great and you're going to make a lot of money and, this and that. Marty and I, are always stressing that, that franchising is not for everybody. You got to do a lot of due diligence. In any industry, there's some bad people in there. There's some bad franchise systems.
That's right.
And, of course, there's a lot of potential franchise owners and many franchise professionals listening right now. Joe, what were some of the things that upset the franchise community a little bit that was in the book?
Well, before I share that, I wanted to thank you, because I was listening to the show when you guys came on the air, and I don't know if it was Don or you, Marty, that said, "Man, I've been waiting for a book like this." Yeah. And I just want to say, first of all, thank you, and second of all, I think it takes a lot of courage to say what you said, because 1 week you have the president of the IFA on, and the next week you have me, who's obviously not an IFA member, and who's not shy about kind of hammering on them sometimes. Right. And I really appreciate it, because you guys get it. It's okay share an opinion. It's okay to state facts. It's okay to tell people that, you know what, the business model of franchising may be the best ever, but it is risky, just like anything. So I just wanted to thank you, and I really appreciate you saying that. That means a lot coming from my peers.
Thank you.
Same here.
It means a lot you saying that. Yeah.
The things that may upset some of the franchise industry folks, I disclose some earnings that some of the brokers make. I used to be a franchise broker, as you know. I'm not anymore. I'm a recovering franchise broker, and I'm an advisor. I know this sounds really strange, but I actually ask people to pay me for my expertise, and then I show them how to choose, how to research franchises, how to get all the information they need, and then I do not point them to any specific franchisors for hope of a commission. So there's nothing wrong with franchise brokerage. I liked it, but I thought that it was important for me to position myself differently. So one of the things I do is I have a whole chapter talking about, asking the question, so what are those free franchise consultations really about? And I disclose some earnings that brokers make. So that's one thing. And I also, talk about some of the marketing tactics that are still used, and they seem like they're 25 years old already. The business in a box and turnkey operation. And you know what, guys? I was, I don't know what I was on Google for, but I was searching for something, and I found within 60 seconds, I found a website that a franchise broker, a new one obviously, had set up, who is still using the 95% of all franchises are successful.
Wow.
Which the IFA wrote a letter about saying you can't do that, guys. So that's the kind of stuff that really upsets me. And so I point stuff like that out.
As you probably know, Joel, I'm in the franchise financing world, doing it for 13 years, and we're always tracking the default rates and especially through SBA.
Right.
And I think I think I at least doubled. I think maybe even tripled the default rate. Now that's not a number overall for that franchise system. If they're saying, hey, 8% of franchisees aren't successful with a particular franchise, for example, maybe it was only 3 a year before, but and a lot of that has to do with these economic times these last few years, but it also has to do with the franchise system. So it's just scary stuff. Even more reason to be careful when you're making the investment. Do your due diligence. Marty and I always stress that. Do you think it's good that yesterday I took a call from a franchise consulting company that that they're going to specialize, and one of their main jobs is just putting new franchise businesses to franchise their concept. And say on a yearly basis, 200 new companies are becoming franchise systems. Do you think that's good for the franchise industry, that so many new franchise systems are starting up, and we're already at close to 4,000?
It's always good for the industry as long as the concepts are really, really ready for, franchise prime time.
Right.
You and I know the names, and we won't say them, I won't say them, of the franchise development companies that, you guys, they say, you guys, you gals, you have an unbelievable concept, man. You should definitely franchise this thing. We can help you. As a matter of fact, we'll even help you sell the first few. And what happens is, if it's not a concept that was really ready for prime time, they help them sell 1 or 2, and then it's over a year later.
Yeah.
So that's the stuff that the people that I refer, the franchise development professionals that I refer people to that call me, are the ones that have the courage to say, you know what? A, you're not ready to do this yet. B,
if you'd like to hear that whole interview with Joel and Bob, all you have to do is go to franchiseinterviews.com and go to our franchises by category page and click on the Franchise Expert, Franchise Author tab, and you can listen to that whole show. So I want to thank everyone and wish everyone again a Happy New Year, and we'll see you again next week with another edition of Franchise Interviews. Take care, everyone.